to the Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast with your hosts, Reese Downing and Jacob Workman.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NCAA edition, Week 8 picks. We're trying something a little new here. We're actually live streaming this. So if you are seeing this, hit us up with a comment. We'll have a little conversation on here with you. Hopefully it's a good one. We are live right now, I believe, on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
That is correct.
Like I said, we will be tracking the comments, though. So if you do have anything, post it. Just trying something a little different, see how it goes. If it sucks, we'll change it next week. But while we start, well, first, let me introduce co-host over there, fine citizen. His name is Reese. He's here with me every week on the college edition. Reese Downing. What's up, Reese?
What's going on, man?
Hell, not a lot. Just
fine citizen.
Being a fine citizen of the world. That's what we ask for. So before we get really into this, we do want to shout out our good friend. We did an interview last week with Delta High School head football coach Chris Overholt. They were starting the state tournament last week against Norwell. They did put a beat down on them, 47-7. So that was a great start this week. It's a big one. They're going to be at home at Delta facing rival Yorktown. And like we mentioned at the end of last week's interview, be a big milestone win. Not only would it be a sectional championship berth, but for our good friend Ovi, it would be his 50th win at Delta. So we're really rooting for the milestone victory there. Reese, do you have anything on that?
Well, congratulations to Coach Ovi and the Eagles, and hopefully you guys can continue that win streak. I won't say that it was the luck of the TNT podcast, but I also won't say it wasn't the luck of the TNT podcast.
That's right. We're taking a little 2% credit. We'll
2%. That works.
That's good for us. So keep rolling in this week, Friday. It's always good to beat Yorktown, so we want to see it. We'll be watching. Hopefully there's a stream because we are 12 hours away. So if there's a stream, we'll be on it. We'll be watching. So good luck, guys. So to follow up with that, last week, Week 8 results, I went 14-10 for the week. I did hit my lock, which was Kansas State. Reese, a little bit of a down week, 9-15, and missed his lock, which was Oklahoma. Did a little season total for you guys. So we picked an insane amount of games. I think it was 213 games. I think is what we.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's over 210.
So I am 114, 97 and 2. Reese is 109, 102 and 2. So I am 54%. He's 51%. So we're both over 50% for the year. These are picks against the spread and over 210 games. So I would say we're doing pretty well. I don't think you can really argue too much of that. Reese, you got anything on the stats here, the season stats?
No, I just hope they continue to improve. I've had a couple rough weeks here the past, I think 2 weeks. So hopefully we can turn it around this week.
All right. One thing we do every week, started 2 weeks ago, is we do give our updated current playoff predictions. So for this week, we are going to go ahead and start with your new number one. So Reese, who do you have coming in at number one this week?
My number one isn't a new number one. It's still Georgia. I think they maintain the spot here just because they haven't lost, but this Brock Bowers injury does make things interesting. Typical recovery time for that tight rib surgery is 4 to 6 weeks. And that's a huge weapon to lose for Carson Beck in that offense. So I'm going to keep them at the top now, but let's see how they do without their number one weapon over the course of these next few games.
Yeah, so what you just mentioned, the Brock Bowers injury, is why I do not have them number one anymore. I think that's a huge deal. I watched the game against Auburn, and I think they would have truly lost that game against Auburn if it was not for Brock Bowers. Their schedule, I know we kind of dogged on it. Well, we rightfully dogged on it at the beginning of the year. It was awful. But it's going to get a lot tougher because there's even a few teams that are a lot better than we thought they were going to be, and they are still on Georgia's schedule. We're going to run through the remaining schedule here at the end, but the schedule is getting a lot tougher, and Bowers is not going to be there for probably any of those games. So it's going to be interesting. My number one, I have to go with Michigan. At some point, you just acknowledge what they're doing. I know that they've got a little bit of scandal going on now. Probably still a little bit better off than Michigan State, who put more Hitlers on the scoreboard than points this week. But I think that Michigan is in great shape. So I am going to go with Michigan as my new number one. Who do you have as number two?
I've got Florida State at number 2. They continue to look really polished on both sides of the ball, look to be a very complete squad. I think this team deserves to be in the conversation for the best team in the country, to be honest with you, but I do have them sitting at number 2 right now.
So we have an agree. I am number 2, Florida State also. Something has really kind of pissed me off this week, though. I'm getting real sick of these people who clearly didn't watch the Duke game coming out and saying, oh, if Riley Leonard would have stayed in the game, Duke would have won, and they got lucky that he was injured and all that. He was 7 of 16 for 69 yards and an interception. Like, what was he doing? What was so great about that? I could have done that. He left the game with 7 minutes left in the third quarter. Florida State won the game by 18 points. It's not like they won by a field goal. They absolutely killed them. So I don't know. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Clearly, no one is paying attention to this team at all. They just want to doubt them. That's what it seems like to me. They've only played one team that's not a Power 5 all year. That team was Southern Miss. Was that a close game? No, they won 66-13. So the one team that wasn't a Power 5 that they played, they actually beat the hell out of. They played BC. It was a close game, yes. It was on the road at BC. They won 31-29. It was BC's Red Bandana Day, which is a huge thing for Boston College. Florida State was battling a team-wide illness, and Jordan Travis got hurt right before halftime. But he was able to come back and finish the game, but still, like, I don't know. I'm just getting real sick of all of the hate for them. Oh, and what else did they do? Oh, they went to Clemson and won, which a lot of people haven't done in the last 10 years. So I don't know. I'm just getting real sick of the media, clearly not watching any of these games, but just wanting to doubt them, which I don't know. The good thing is it's in our control. Went out. They can't say anything. We're in. Prove them wrong.
Yeah.
Who do you have at number 3?
Well, I've left this squad out the last couple weeks, but I can't do it anymore. I've got Michigan sitting at number 3. While other teams are struggling against teams that they should be handling pretty easily, Michigan is doing their job and beating these bad teams like they should. So I can't argue with it. They deserve to be in the top 4. So I've got them sitting at number 3 right now.
We've agreed again. Or no, sorry. I have Washington at number 3. Washington is my number 3. Struggled last week. It was pouring down rain in that game. So again, it's kind of one of those things. If people didn't watch it, they probably had a little misconception. I will say Washington did not play the best game. I mean, they realistically could have lost that game very easily. It was a late pick 6 that kind of sealed it for them. But again, they're playing without their second best receiver. Jalen McMillan still didn't play. The weather was awful. And I mean, that's just something that's going to happen during the year. You're going to have a game where you have to struggle through. That's kind of like Florida State's BC game. So, I mean, it's just something that's going to happen. So number 4, who do you have there?
I've got Washington here. It was really, really close between them and the Buckeyes, just because Ohio State's schedule, like they've got some decent wins on their docket right now. I'm giving Washington the nod because whoever wins the Michigan Ohio State game, I think is going to be in that 3 spot. And we're obviously trying to predict the playoffs here. If Washington wins out, there's zero reason they aren't in the playoffs. So I'm going to keep them here, although I did move them down from 2 to 4 after that close win last week against Arizona State. But I bounce back and forth here between Washington and Ohio State, and right behind them I had the Ducks. So my first 2 teams out are Ohio State and Oregon, but I've got Washington sitting here in the 4 spot.
All right. My 4 is Georgia. We've already kind of ran through our thoughts on them. I just have to drop them down a little bit because their best player is hurt and he's going to be missing some key games. So I do drop them just a little bit. I have a feeling we both have the same number 5 team. But what's your number 5?
My number 5, as I just said, was Florida State, and I've got Oregon just behind them at 6.
Oh, I missed that part. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
Number 5, I have Ohio State. Where did you have Ohio State? I must have missed.
Yeah, I've got Ohio State at 5, and I've got Oregon at 6. I'm picking 2 teams there just because
No, sorry. When you said it right there, you said Florida State. That's why I was confused. I was like, I thought Florida State was 2.
Yeah. All good.
Okay. All right. So we both do have Ohio State there. Okay. All right. So just going to run through I'm going to do it in my order just because that's how I already have it. Well, we'll just go. So we're going to start with Michigan. Michigan's remaining games are home against Purdue, at Penn State, at Maryland, and home against Ohio State. So they got 4 games left. What are your thoughts on those 4?
Run those 4 back.
So Purdue at home, at Penn State, at Maryland, home against Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, going into the season here, I thought the Penn State game was going to be the breaking point for them before they even got to Ohio State. But based on how Penn State's offense looked against Ohio State, Michigan's defense is better. So I don't see them running into a potential problem until they get to that last game of the year. And the fact that it's in the big house makes me think that they're going to enter the college football playoffs undefeated.
Yeah, there's a little part of me that wants to see that Maryland game just because it's at Maryland. You never know. I mean, they actually have an offense, unlike Penn State. So, when teams can play offense, there's always a threat, you feel like, in college football. But I don't know. Yeah, I know in our preview that Penn State game was a huge one. Like we really talked about that game, but it's hard to get behind them after what they just did. Like their offense is awful. So I don't know. It's very hard to see a Penn State team going up against Michigan and competing. So next we have Florida State. They are going to be at Wake Forest, at Pitt, home against Miami, home against North Alabama, and then at Florida. What are your thoughts on that?
That North Alabama game is, I don't foresee any of these being a problem. Pitt has hung into a couple games this year, and it's at Pitt. So that game, they can't walk in and just assume it's going to be an automatic win. The Miami game, beginning of the year, I would have been a little bit more concerned about that. Not so much now. They seem like they're kind of on a downward spin, and I think Florida is actually worse than what their schedule says. So all things considered here, if I'm worried about any of those games, it would be the game at Pitt.
Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. Miami's a home game, which is huge. The North Alabama game is a straight move from the SEC. We're saying, oh, you guys want to pull this before rivalry week? We can do the same thing. So I think that's smart scheduling, taking advantage of just like exactly what the SEC does in before rivalry week. At Florida is going to be something just because it's the Florida game. I mean, it is what it is, and it's on the road. So we'll see how they kind of turn their season around and see what happens. But I do like the matchups in every game. So the next team I have is Washington. They are going to be at Stanford, at USC, home against Utah, at Oregon State, and then the Apple Cup is at home this year. So the Washington State game to end.
This schedule scares me. Washington's a hell of a team, but damn, man, USC, their defense, even with this being in USC, their defense can't stop a nosebleed. So I'm not as worried about that game as I am the Utah game. Oregon State's going to come into play, and that crowd's going to be rowdy. And then that Washington State game, that's not a game to blink at. I mean, the benefit is if the Huskies get out of this undefeated, man, they have been battle tested, and going into the college football playoff, I would not want to play them.
Yeah, it's I agree with what you're saying there. The huge thing I think for Washington is Utah and Washington State are home games because those are 2 impossible places to go to and win. At Oregon State is not an easy place to go to and win either, but if there is one of the 3 that was good to be on the road, I would say it's that one. At Stanford, I don't worry about it all. And at USC, I think they are going to be mentally defeated by that time. They're in bad shape, it seems, and it's only getting worse. So, but yeah, I'm with you. And the only thing that would suck really for Washington is say they go 12-0, but then they go to the Pac-12 championship and lose. Like, I don't know. That just really sucks because there's no reason that they should be kept out of the tournament because of a conference championship game. It's essentially meaningless. So, and we'll still wait and see how it all plays out. The Pac-12, the next few weeks is going to be very interesting in the Pac-12. Next was Georgia. So we got the cocktail party this weekend playing Florida. Then they're home against Missouri, home against Ole Miss. Then they go on the road to Tennessee, and then at Georgia Tech to finish.
Yeah, I mean, we just sit here talking about Washington's schedule, but Georgia's schedule is not easy either. I mean, playing Mizzou at home is benefit being in Georgia. Old Miss is going to come into that game. Lane Kiffin's going to have that team fired up. Brock Bowers is not going to be playing, so that is a dangerous game. Then they're on the road at Rocky Top, and then finishing at Georgia Tech. The Georgia Tech game I'm not too concerned about, but I'll be very surprised if Georgia gets out of these 3 of these last 4 November games without a minimum a scare, if not a loss. That Old Miss game is the one that I'm really eyeballing, but that Rocky Top game could be a good one too. So I'll be surprised if Georgia enters the SEC championship undefeated.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was actually going to say the Missouri game. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, just because I know it's a road game for Missouri, but that team is good.
Yeah, they are good.
They have weapons, and their weakness is their defense, which I think Georgia's offense is their weakness. So I could easily see that being like a 14-7, 17-21 game, a very low scoring game, and Missouri can battle. Like I'm honestly not even. I mean, we're going to do our picks here in a few, but I'm not even ruling out Florida this weekend in the cocktail party. I don't. Georgia's not impressive. Like I've watched them quite a bit, and I'm not too big on them. It's going to take Carson Beck becoming an absolute wizard out there to really make me change my opinion on them. Our last team we had was Ohio State. They are at Wisconsin, at Rutgers. So we got back-to-back road spots here for the next 2 weeks. Then they're playing Michigan State at home, Minnesota at home, and then finishing at the Big House, Michigan.
Of the last 5 here, the 2 that I would be most concerned about would be at Wisconsin, which is the one that's coming up this weekend. It's a primetime matchup. Luke Fickell's familiar with the Buckeye team, and if they control the ground game and keep the ball out of Ohio State's hands, that could get deadly for them. The other one being obviously the Big House game. That one's going to be one of the games of the year, and it typically is, but this is matching up to be a huge game. Michigan has controlled things here the last year or two, so I'll be interested to see how these 2 defenses match up and if the Michigan defense can slow down Marvin Harrison Jr. But the one that I would be most concerned about, obviously, is the one at the Big House. If they can get out of the Wisconsin game this week with a decent win, I'm not as concerned about Rutgers. Michigan State just got a goose egg put up on them last week against Michigan, so I'm not worried about that one. Golden Gophers, I'm not worried about. So it'd be the Big House game on the 25th.
Yeah, I saw a look-ahead line when I was doing our lines for this week. Michigan is a 4-point favorite right now on the look-ahead for that game. If we were to pick it today, what would you take in that?
4 points.
Yep.
Right now, I'd probably take Ohio State. I can see it being a 3-point game.
Wow. I'm actually surprised by that. I think I would take Michigan right now minus the 4. I just think that they're more of a complete team. The home field factor and the fact that they've beat them the last 2 years, like they don't have that. I mean, what'd they lose? Like 7 in a row or 8 in a row to Urban. I think they've kind of got that gone now. Now it's more of we're the dominant team. So
right.
I don't know. We'll see how the next few weeks play out. I am not looking forward to that weekend at all because that means the regular season is over. So it's going to be a pretty sad time. It's coming very quick also.
Yeah, I was going to say it feels like it's been flying by.
Yeah, this is week 9 picks. Like that's insane to think. So to start off our week 9 picks, it is the Noles. Number 4, Florida State, minus 20. On the road at Wake Forest, noon on ABC. 7-0 Florida State did defeat Duke 38-20, while 4-3 Wake Forest is coming off of a 21-17 win versus Pitt. Who do you have?
Yeah, Wake Forest has won the last 3, but I don't see that happening a 4th time. My only concern with this spread is the Noles' first road game in a month, but Wake Forest has been pretty turnover heavy, so I'm going to take the Noles here minus the points.
Yeah, I was very thankful when Sam Hartman transferred. That slow mesh that they were running at Wake Forest was, man, they had our number. It was not a fun time playing them. I think the roles are a little different now. think our team is much better, and I do expect Florida State to cover the 20. Number 6, Oklahoma -10 on the road at Kansas, noon on Fox. 7-0 Oklahoma beat UCF 31-29, while 5-2 Kansas is coming off of a bye. They did announce today that Kansas quarterback Jalen Daniels was listed as doubtful to questionable. I have no idea what that means, but as we've learned all year, college football injury reports are so stupid. So if Jalen Daniels does not play, it will be our good friend Jason Bean, who's played for him the last 4 games. He's 2-2 on the year. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma scared me last week, but they pulled that win out thanks to some of the refs.
It was awful.
Yeah, they aren't going to be able to do that this week against Kansas at home, especially because they likely won't get the help that they got from the refs last week. But I think Venables will right the ship, so I'll take the Sooners here minus the points.
Yeah, I like Bean, but I am really hoping we get the return of Jalen Daniels. This is the game I've been waiting for quite a while. This is a huge game when it comes to the Big 12. I am going to take the home team. I'm taking Kansas plus the points in this one. IU on the road at number 10, Penn State -31.5 noon on CBS. 2-5 IU got beat by Rutgers 31-14, while 6-1 Penn State lost at Ohio State 20-12.
Yeah, this line has gone from 32 to 31.5 for the past couple days, and I think it's going in the opposite direction. IU looks rough. Penn State gave up that rough loss last week in the shoe. I think they're going to bounce back here. I'm going to take the Nittany Lions minus the points.
Yeah, I don't want to, but I am taking Penn State. I think IU. I'm actually surprised that Tom Allen has not been fired yet. So we'll see what happens. I know he got quite a thrashing from the fans last week at home, so we'll see what happens after this one. But I am on Penn State minus the huge points there. The cocktail party's next. Number 1, Georgia -14.5 versus Florida, 3:30 CBS. This is in Jacksonville. 7-0 Georgia, coming off of a bye, heads to Jacksonville to face the 5-2 Gators that are also coming off of a bye. This will be Georgia's first game without Brock Bowers.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing what this team's going to do offensively without him. But I think this Florida squad, as I talked about a little bit ago, is not as good as their record would indicate. I know this is at the Swamp, or no, it's not even at the Swamp. So that throws a whole other wrench into it. Georgia's won the last 2 of these games by an average of 24. So I'm going to take Georgia here minus the points.
I'm actually going to give Florida a shot here. I'm going to take the points. I like that I'm getting the extra half over the 2 touchdowns. A 28-14 win by Georgia still is a cover, so I'm gonna keep that in play. I'm gonna take Florida here. Next, we got BYU on the road at number 7, Texas -17.5, 3:30 on ABC. 5-2 BYU defeated Texas Tech 27-14, while 6-1 Texas beat Houston 31-24. Texas will be starting Malik Murphy at quarterback since there were injuries to Quinn Ewers. Sarkisian did announce that Arch Manning was also splitting some first-team reps, so there is a chance we might see Arch finally. What do you got on this one?
Yeah, it looks like that'll be a little bit more concerning with Murphy, but I have read there's a lot of hype around Murphy internally with the team and how well he's looked obviously during practice and things like that. So I'll be interested to see it, but I think Texas is more talented at every position than BYU is. I would like to see, frankly, a pretty solid lead going into the fourth quarter so we can see some Arch Manning. But I'm going to take Texas here either way to cover.
I'm going to do a backing of LDS Tuesday here. I'm going to take BYU. I like the fact that Caden Slovis is there. He's an experienced quarterback, so going into Austin to face Texas is not going to. He's not going to be rattled at all in this situation. BYU is always one of those teams that I just trust to play decent football. So I mean, getting 17.5, I feel like is a lot. I mean, I think Texas is the better team, but it's a lot of points. I think BYU can keep it within that, especially with questionable quarterback situation. We've got a huge game next. Number 8, Oregon, -6.5 is on the road at number 13, Utah, 3:30 at Fox. 6-1 Oregon beat Washington State 38-24, while 6-1 Utah beat USC 34-32. Both teams are 3-1 in the conference, so this is a big one to stay alive in the race for the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah, Whittingham's making it work with Bryson Barnes at quarterback too. Utah is extremely dangerous at home. I I know it's typically go with the home team in Pac-12 play, but I'm going to roll the dice and take Oregon here to take care of business. If this line didn't move from 7 to 6.5, I'd have been a little bit more concerned about it, but I'm going to go with the Ducks here minus the points.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Utah. That home field is nuts, and things happen there that just don't seem like they should happen. So I'm gonna take Utah. The offense is obviously the question of the game. It's Utah's offense versus Oregon's defense. If their offense can do anything, then they're alive in this game, I think. But yeah, this is going to be a huge game, and for Oregon, this is kind of step one to get into the Pac-12 championship since the loss to Washington. So this is probably one of the best games of the day. It might be the best game of the day. Pitt on the road at number 14 Notre Dame minus 20.5, 330 NBC. 2-5 Pitt lost at Wake Forest 21-17, while 6-2 Notre Dame is coming off of a much needed bye.
Yeah, Pitt's not an easy team to predict, but the last 6 games between these two teams has been decided by 5 points or less on average. That scares me a little bit. Pitt also hasn't lost a game by more than 17 this year. I think the Irish will take care of business and win this game, but I think Pitt can keep it within touchdowns in a field goal. So I'm going to take the Pitt Panthers here plus the points.
Yeah, since Notre Dame finally got the bye, I mean, they played one of the roughest schedules I've ever seen, so it's nice that they finally got some rest. Coming back home off the bye, I like them to win and cover. I'm taking Notre Dame minus the 20.5 in this one. This one's a big one for the ACC championship game. We just talked about the Pac-12 2 games ago, but this one's a big one for the ACC championship. Number 20 Duke on the road at number 18 Louisville minus 4.5, 330 on ESPN. 5-2 Duke lost at Florida State 38-20, while 6-1 Louisville is coming off of a bye. You got in this one?
Yeah, Cards are coming off that bye. It's still up in the air whether Leonard's playing or not, so I'm going to take Louisville home here minus the points.
Yep, I am on Louisville also. And even if Leonard were to play, I don't think there's any way possible he's still healthy enough to be the runner that he is. And I think this is going to be, I mean, obviously this is more than, well, North Carolina, I guess, is still alive also. But obviously the winner of this one's in the driver's seat to make the ACC championship. Number 22 Tulane, minus 10.5 at Rice, 4 o'clock on ESPN2. 6-1 Tulane defeated the Mean Green of North Texas 35-28, while 4-3 Rice defeated Tulsa 42-10.
Yeah, Michael Pratt had a hell of a game against North Texas and drove the Green Wave to victory last week. I think they keep that momentum going here against Rice, so give me Tulane minus the points.
Yep, Tulane has had it rolling for the last few weeks. I like Tulane to keep it going also. Number 24 USC minus 10.5 on the road at Cal, 4 o'clock on the Pac-12 network. 6-2 USC lost at home to Utah 34-32, while 3-4 Cal is coming off of a bye. Who do you have?
Yeah, back-to-back losses for the Trojans, but this should be a get-right game for Caleb Williams and company. The Golden Bears have been giving up a ton of points this year, and USC's offense should keep them ahead all game, so I'll take the Trojans here minus the points.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the status of this game is after this year with Cal going ACC and USC going Big Ten. I'm not sure if this is something that's scheduled to still be played or not. I really don't think so, which is kind of a shame. I like Justin Wilcox to get the defense ready. I like Cal. I'm taking the points, and Cal might even win this outright. USC is just one of those teams. They're kind of like Colorado in my eyes, where they're that type of team that once you beat them, they're down. And when they know that they have nothing to play for, they get really down. And this is kind of one of those situations. USC is dead. They're not going to make the Pac-12 championship. Their playoff hopes are for sure gone. And I mean, Caleb Williams is probably at the point now where he's just ready to go to the NFL.
Yeah, so, he's looking at April.
Yep. So I like Cal in this situation. And honestly, there's even been some talk of, will Lincoln Riley have NFL entertainment? So, I mean, there's a lot of things not to like about USC right now. So I'm going to give Cal the point or the chance here and take the points at 10.5. Number 5, Washington, minus 26.5 on the road at Stanford, 7 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. 7-0 Washington defeated Arizona State 15-7, while 2-5 Stanford lost to UCLA 42-7.
Yeah, the Huskies did not look great against Arizona State last week. I'm guessing Stanford tries going blitz heavy, similar to what the Sun Devils did against Washington last week. The good thing for Washington, though, is that Stanford's given up an average of 39 points to USC, Oregon, and UCLA this year. So look for Washington to tighten things up this week and win big. I'll take the Huskies minus the points.
I am on Washington also to kind of bounce back and get right. They had their scare. Now it's time to kind of finish out the dream season that they're having. Number 19, Air Force minus 11.5 at Colorado State, 7 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. 7-0 Air Force beat Navy 17-6, while 3-4 Colorado State lost at UNLV 25-23. Air Force is currently the highest ranked Group of 5 team, putting them in the New Year's 6 spot for now.
Well, hopefully it stays that way, so that way that prop bet will work. Air Force ground game's looking really good. They've won the last 6 against Colorado State. Should continue rolling here. I'll take the Falcons minus the points.
I am on Air Force also. Really like what they've been doing. I watched the Navy game last week. It was like I was watching 1960s football, but it was still entertaining. It was a good game. And I do like what Air Force has going. Number 21, Tennessee minus 3.5 on the road at Kentucky, 7 o'clock on ESPN. 5-2 Tennessee lost at Alabama 34-20, while 5-2 Kentucky is coming off of a bye.
Yeah, Tennessee hasn't played that great on the road in conference this year, but this spread leans towards Rocky Top, so I'm going to take the Vols minus the points.
I'm actually going to take Kentucky. Tennessee just coming off of that battle with Bama, and now they've got to go on the road to a Kentucky team that's doesn't really like Tennessee. They're rivals without being true rivals. Stoops, one more win, I think, is where his contract bonus kicks in, so he's definitely going to be fighting for this game. I just like Kentucky at home and a potential upset here. Number 3, Ohio State minus 14.5 on the road at Wisconsin, 7:30 on NBC. 7-0 Ohio State defeated Penn State 20-12, while 5-2 Wisconsin won at Illinois 25-21. Wisconsin is now back in the lead in the Big Ten West, and after this game, their schedule's pretty favorable. What do you think in this one?
Yeah, this would be an interesting game. We talked about it a little earlier with Fickle's ties to the Buckeyes. It's also a night game at Wisconsin, so this carries a little bit more juice. I think the key here is going to be whether the Badgers can slow down the ground game because they have struggled against that in the past couple weeks. That extra 5 points throwing me off a little bit, but I'm going to roll with the Buckeyes here minus the points.
Yeah, the hook there, the 5 is why I took Wisconsin. You would think Ohio State would dominate this game, honestly. But when you put it in the situation like you mentioned with Fickle at Wisconsin, night game, a lot of things can go down in situations like this. So I do like the points here. I'm going to take Wisconsin. Next, Vandy on the road at number 12, Ole Miss, minus 24.5, 7:30 on the SEC network. 2-6 Vandy is coming off of a bye as they head to Oxford to face 6-1 Ole Miss, which defeated Auburn last week 28-21.
Yeah, I think this is a significant spread. It's a night game at home, and Ole Miss is on a 3-game winning streak, but I think the Commodores can keep it within 24. So I'm going to take Team Joey here, plus the points.
Yeah, again, this is the second week in a row. We've had quite a bit of differences. I'm actually going with Ole Miss here. I like them. I just like what the offense has been doing. And I think Lane finally has a team where he can literally just roll out there and dominate people, which they haven't been able to do for a while. I mean, it's nice playing teams that are 2-6, but I really like what Kiffin has going this year. It's kind of a different feel for Ole Miss this year as opposed to most years where they're like, okay, they're going to kill the teams that aren't very good, but then lose the big games. But I think, as you mentioned earlier, like they're going to contend in the Georgia game. Like I think it's going to be a great game. So I am on Ole Miss here. Colorado is back in action this week at number 23 UCLA minus 17.5, 7:30 on ABC. Colorado is 4-3. They had a bye last week. 5-2 UCLA did kill Stanford last week 42-7. Who do you have in that one?
Yeah, UCLA is playing well, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Colorado's been on a bit of a slide, so I can see that continuing here in the Rose Bowl. I'm going to take UCLA here minus the points.
I'm on UCLA also minus 17.5. Again, that performance last week against Stanford was crazy. The defense has shown they're very good. I am interested to watch Colorado's offense versus UCLA's defense. I think it's going to be a great matchup there. But I am on UCLA. Number 17, North Carolina minus 11.5 at Georgia Tech, 8 o'clock on the ACC network. 6-1 North Carolina was upset by Virginia 31-27, while 3-4 Georgia Tech lost to Boston College 38-23.
Yeah, Tar Heels disappointed me last week against Virginia, and I think they'll come into this primetime matchup ready to bounce back. Hopefully, Drake May, Hampton, Tez, and the gang can get back to good here. So I'll take the Tar Heels minus the points.
I am on North Carolina also. I don't know what happened to them last week. It was a game they never should have lost, but it was a huge loss. I mean, that opened the door for the ACC championship for a lot of teams now. Louisville and Duke were kind of behind them, but now everyone's kind of back up there. And I don't know if they all play each other. I know Duke and Carolina play, but I don't know. I don't think Louisville and North Carolina play. So probably a tiebreaker situation there. Old Dominion going on the road at number 25, James Madison, minus 19.5, 8 o'clock on ESPNU. 4-3, Old Dominion defeated App State 28-21, while 7-0, JMU beat Marshall 20-9.
Yeah, shout out to Jalen Green. He had 5 sacks last week. That was a hell of a game he played. With the exception of Virginia Tech game, Old Dominion's kept games close. So I'm going to take the Monarchs here plus the points to keep it within striking distance.
Yeah, I actually battled with this one for a while. I like Old Dominion. I've watched them a little bit. I've watched James Madison quite a bit, actually, just because they've been so good this year. I went ahead just because they're the home team. I took James Madison minus the 19.5. But I think this one's going to be very close to the number. So see what happens out of that one. Number 11, Oregon State minus 3.5 on the road at Arizona, 10:30 on ESPN. 6-1, Oregon State is coming off of a bye, while 4-3, Arizona also had a bye. Arizona has said that they will reveal if it will be Jaden DeLora or Noah Fafita right before kickoff. DeLora, obviously, I've talked about him a lot. He's an electric player. He's very fun to watch. He's dynamic on the Arizona offense, but I mean, Noah Fafita has been sick. So I don't even know if it matters who the Arizona quarterback is here. Who do you have in this one?
This is the game I kept going back and forth on. The Oregon State's been on a roll as of late, but this late night game really scares me, especially with after how the Wildcats just performed last week against Wisconsin, or last game against Wisconsin. I think this is going to be a tight one. I'm going to take Oregon State here minus the points, but this is a game that definitely scares me.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take Arizona here. I don't know if it will be an outright win, but I can definitely see them keeping it within 3. So I'm going to take Arizona. I'm actually pretty excited for this game. I love the late night games, and you couldn't really ask for a better one than this, except for the end of the 6-pack. There's a real good one coming.
Yeah.
So that finishes the top 25 picks. So we are now going to get into our Muncie 6-pack. There's going to be an emission this week because there's a team on a bye that we normally pick. Our Fighting Football Ball State Cardinals are not playing this week, so you will not hear them this week, unfortunately.
Automatic win.
So, Houston on the road at Kansas State, minus 16.5 noon on ESPN2. 3-4 Houston lost at Texas 31-24, while 5-2 Kansas State crushed TCU 41-3. I know we had a little discussion earlier about refs in the West Virginia UCF game. The refs in this Houston game, I've never seen referees last week had a bad week. I mean, we had
in NCAA and NFL at that.
And NFL, yeah, both. It was terrible. But the UCF pass interference call was one of the worst I've ever seen. The Iowa fair catch was ridiculous. I still, his hand never even barely went above his waist. Like, I don't see how you can. I don't know. That was crazy. Houston had a clear first down, and they didn't review it. It was as clear as day. Like, the announcers on Fox, everyone watching the game knew it was a first down. They didn't give them the first down. They didn't review it. And then fourth down, they went and got it again, and they didn't review it. And they got it both times. It was literally like the fix was in for Texas. It was pretty bad. It was one of those things you watch and you're like, yeah, something's up here. These refs definitely bet on this game or something, because this was not good. And college football, where every single play is reviewed, and then they don't review that. Like, it was very bad. So who do you have rolling in this one in the Little Apple?
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game to watch. I think Will Howard and company will get the job done here, but I'm going to take Houston plus the points to cover.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take Kansas State at home. Like I said, Houston, I think that crushing defeat, and now they've got to go on the road again to another good team. I just think that's enough that can add up. And it's a noon game. It's tough for road teams to get up at noon. So I do like Kansas State to get the cover in this one.
I did read during the Iowa game that the reason why that was called the way it was is because the referees thought that he told them to clear out and not to touch the ball. And when they do that, they take it as dead ball wherever it's touched. So you can't progress downfield.
And that's crazy, because people do that all the time. And then when the defense doesn't pick it up, they go and grab it and run.
Right.
That's
the way. I can't remember if it was Tom Pelissero or who I heard that from, but one of the big referee guys that always does commentary talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, referees just kill me. They're so bad. Actually, there was one in the Florida State game too. Duke. This would have benefited Florida State actually, but I'm not willing to. When refs suck, refs sucks, and I'll talk about it. I hate them. Duke was going to go for it on a 4th and 2. They ran their 3rd down play. Florida State stopped them. Florida State's defense was running off the field. Duke never subbed. They left their offense on the field, lined up, and were going to run the play. And the ref stood over the ball like they subbed, so they couldn't run the play. I don't know. It's little things like that are just so terrible, but they make huge impacts on the game. Like I don't know. Something's got to get fixed about it. It's bad. I don't even know what game we're at. South Carolina.
Yeah.
South Carolina is going on the road to Texas A&M -14 noon on ESPN. 2-5 South Carolina lost at Missouri 34-12, while 4-3 A&M is coming off of a bye.
A&M has to win this game, right? I mean, the Gamecocks haven't looked right all year. They haven't won a game on the road. I'm going to take the Aggies here minus the points.
Yeah, I'm on Texas A&M also. If for somehow they were to lose this game, it's a fire there and it's over. There's going to be a war. But I do like A&M to cover in this one. I just don't think South Carolina is that good. West Virginia going on the road to UCF -7 noon on Fox Sports 1. 4-3 West Virginia lost to Oklahoma State 48-34, while 3-4 UCF lost at Oklahoma 31-29.
Yeah, UCF has been skidding since that 3-0 start. The Mountaineers look like they'll be without Hudson Clement, though, which that can slow down their offensive attack. I'm going to take the Knights here plus the points, or minus the points, I should say. I'm not super confident in this game. I think West Virginia might be able to pull it out, but I am going to go with UCF minus the points.
Yeah, I'm on UCF also. It's going to be tough to come back from that Oklahoma game, but I mean, West Virginia just lost at home to Oklahoma State. Gundy's kind of always had their number the last few years, but I do like UCF on their home field. I think they're going to be all right in this one, so I'm going to take them to cover the 7. We do have action still. Don't worry, just because Ball State's not here. Miami of Ohio at Ohio -6.5, 3:30 on CBS Sports Network. 6-2 Miami of Ohio lost to Toledo 21-17, while 6-2 Ohio defeated Western Michigan 20-17. Miami of Ohio quarterback Brett Gabbert did get hurt against Toledo, and he is out for the year now, which is a crushing blow to them. Who do you have in this one in a battle for basically a berth in the MAC championship?
Yeah, I was going to say this is a huge game, battle of 6-2 squads. It should be a fun one. I was going to say this could end up being a push when it was at -7 with it being -6.5. I think Ohio gets it done here at home, so I'll take the Bobcats.
Yeah, I'm going to keep riding with Ohio. I still like what they're doing on defense, and their offense the offense did pick it up last week a little bit. I mean, it wasn't anything grand, but they did at least do something. So I'm back on the Ohio train. I like to see them get to the MAC championship at Ford Field, so I'm going to pull for Ohio here minus the 6.5. Wyoming on the road at Boise State -5.5, 5:30 on Fox Sports 2. 5-2 Wyoming is coming off of a bye, while 3-4 Boise State is also coming off of a bye. Both teams are currently 2-1 in the Mountain West Conference.
Yeah, it's difficult to predict how this Boise State team is going to play from week to week. Wyoming, on the other hand, you kind of know what you're going to get from them. I think because of Wyoming's style of play, the game's going to be a little closer than what it should be, but I'm still going to go with the Cowboys and the points on this.
I'm on Wyoming also. I just think that I still think they're a better team. Boise State hasn't done a whole lot to impress me. It kind of surprises me they're favored. I don't know. I can't quite. I tried to figure out why Boise was favored. I can't figure it out. I think Wyoming's the better team. I would take them straight up on the money line. Troy -4.5 at Texas State, 7:00 on the plus. 5-2 Troy is coming off of a bye, while 5-2 Texas State is also coming off of a bye. The winner of this one is going to be in the lead in the Sun Belt West Division. Who do you have in this one?
Yeah, this should be a battle because it's not just these two guys. I think South Alabama is tied for the first place in the Sun Belt West right now as well, if I remember correctly. Texas State's athletic director did write a letter to the fans about how big this game is going to be. So I expect them to be a pretty large turnout. Crowd should be in it early. So I'm going to go with the Bobcats here plus the points to win one at home.
Yeah, I went with Troy just because of the more experienced team, but this is going to be a great game. This is kind of one of those sleeper games that if you really love college football, you're going to be watching because this is one of those like quiet hidden gems of the day. But I am on Troy. Last game of the Muncie six pack, UNLV on the road at Fresno State -7.5, 10:30 on Fox Sports 1. 6-1 UNLV defeated Colorado State 25-23, while 6-1 Fresno State is coming off of a bye. UNLV is still undefeated in conference play, while Fresno is right behind them at 2-1. It is still unknown if quarterback Mikey Keene will return for Fresno this week, or if it's still going to be Logan Fife at quarterback.
Yeah, it should be a fun game either way. Fresno's only loss being that heartbreaker against Wyoming. UNLV's only loss being to Michigan in week 2, though. And Fresno's won the last 5 in this head-to-head contest. The last year, the Bulldogs beat UNLV at home by 7. The previous year, they won by 8. Fresno may win this one, but I think ULV can keep it close enough. So I'm going to roll the dice here and take UNLV to cover.
Yeah, I read so they said last week Mikey Keene actually practiced fully. So I hate college injury reports. They don't make any sense. I'm playing the fact I think Keene's going to be the quarterback, and I'm taking Fresno to come back at home off of the bye and to cover the 7.5. But I think this is going to be a great game. Again, for a 10:30 spot with this game and Oregon State, Arizona at the same time. Like, we got some pretty good late night games this week.
For sure.
All right. So to wrap up our picks, we always do our locks of the week. Reese, what do you have this week?
Oh, we had that one on loop there for a second. My lock this week is that I guarantee the Ball State Cardinals will not lose.
I think that will happen.
Yeah, that's right. Keep the streak going. I'm going to lock in on Tennessee over Kentucky. Tennessee handled them pretty easily last year, and through the first half of last week's game against Alabama, they looked really good. I don't think Kentucky will have that level of comeback in them, so I'm going to lock in on Rocky Top here minus the points.
I like it. I think that's the first time this year that you've locked or someone has locked a game that we didn't agree on. I think that's the first time because I picked Kentucky in that one.
Yeah.
So I think that might be our first this year. I'm not 100% positive on that, but I think that is the case.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. Yeah.
My lock this week is Louisville -4.5 versus Duke. I just like them at home. I don't think Riley Leonard is a factor, and this team's, like I said, I think they're kind of destined to get to the ACC championship game, and this was kind of the last hurdle, really. So I'm going to ride Louisville at home to get the cover of -4.5 versus Duke. You have anything else on this week?
Nope. Hopefully we just be able to turn it around here and get over to plus 500 again.
So we will be back live here again shortly with an NFL edition. For my co-host, the fine citizen, Reese Downing over there. I'm Jacob Workman. Hit us up on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, anywhere else we might be. I think that's all of our main places. So that is it for the Tuesday Night Touchdown podcast. We will see you guys next week. And again, good luck to the Delta Eagles against Yorktown this Friday night. Have a good one, guys. See you.
Cheers, guys.